Welcome to the Love Lab Podcast, a safe place to get real about sex. Whether you're a man, woman, single, or couple, this is the show for you.
We are your hosts, Kevin Anthony and Céline Remy, and we are here to guide you to go from good to amazing in the bedroom and beyond.
All right, welcome back to the Love Lab Podcast. This is episode 177, and it is titled The Biggest Mistakes Men Make When Trying to Attract Women. Okay, a couple of things. We got a little housekeeping right from the start here. This is not about being a pickup artist. Let's just get that out of the way. We do not condone people who consider themselves pickup artists and just want to see how many women they can pick up and how many women they can sleep with. That is not what this is about. If this were about that, you would actually get a much different list of stuff because it would really be all about whatever it takes. This is going to be for men who actually really want to attract quality women and relationships. So, the guys are like, I can never find a girlfriend, or I never seem to choose the right women. And
well, this always comes out in a few years in a relationship. I've dated several women. We always have issues.
Right, exactly. So that's really what this is about. And, ladies, even though this might be about how men can attract women, I would highly suggest you listen to this. Because one, I think you're going to agree with a lot of what we say. You'll probably be sitting there doing the bobblehead thing going, yes, that's exactly what I want.
Send it to all of your man friends.
Right, exactly. Send it to your man friends. And what you might also get out of it if you're a woman is you might not realize that these are things that you actually do want. And by listening to this, you might go, oh, I never really thought of it that way, but they're right. That is actually what I would want a man to do, right? So it might actually help the ladies on the dating scene as well.
All right. Well, I'm excited about today's show, but before we dive into our subject, let's give a big shout out to our sponsors, Power and Mastery. So if you want to join the secret club of men who are great in bed, then check out Power and Mastery at powerandmastery.com. It is the most complete sexual mastery training for men, whether you want to have harder erections, last longer, or increase your sexual skills. There is something for you at powerandmastery.com. All right. So we have actually a lot of mistakes. And by the way, I kind of want to say out front, don't get all worried. I think we have 13 of them. The idea, we're not pointing a finger or saying oh, you're doing all of these things wrong, is for you to know hey, how can you change things for the better?
Yeah, I know this is, you have to realize, we just have to say this, right? If we want anybody to actually hear this show, we have to come up with creative titles that get people ooh, yeah, I want to know what that is, right? This is how you do anything across social media and how you get noticed today.
It's called marketing.
It's called marketing, right? So don't get hung up on, oh, sure, it's always the guy's fault, right? Because these are sometimes the feedback that we get on YouTube and such, where, oh yeah, you're always blaming the guys. It's always the guys, Look, it's not about that. What we're really trying to do here is help you, help you do the right things.
And there will be a part 2 at some point for the women.
Exactly.
So let's talk first about some of the mistakes. Number 1, they go to the wrong places. So if you are wanting to attract a certain type of woman, you need to go where she hangs out, not where you don't want to go, where there are women that you wouldn't want to date.
Well, here's how this shows up a lot, right? I can make up numerous examples, but how about a guy who's really outdoorsy? He's totally into doing sports and things outdoors, and then he goes to a fancy nightclub to try to pick up women. And then later on, they're 6 months down, a year down in the relationship, and he's like, she never wants to go camping with me. She never, and ladies who like to go to clubs, I know that there are women who like to go to clubs who still love to do outdoorsy things. It's just an example. But the point is that if you want to find somebody that likes to do the same things you do, has a similar interests to you, then go do those things that you're interested in and find the people who are doing those same things. If you go some place to try to specifically to try to meet somebody, and it's not the sort of place that you would ever really be, or that's not really your personality, then what are the chances are that you're going to find somebody that is compatible with you?
Well, and you want to think too about age groups and maybe also, I don't know if the term class is the right word, but if you're looking for
now you're offensive.
I know that's
you
what I'm
said
like.
the dirty word. You realize in Western society, we do not admit there's a class structure, even though there very clearly is.
There clearly is. And so you got to be aware of that depending on who you want to be with. And so sometimes it's easier to go to different place that's not exactly who you are because it's easier to get the girl, right? But it doesn't make for a long-term relationship. So by the way, all of these that we are sharing today is to help you to have a long-term relationship. It's not just to have like a one-time fling, because I think it's easier to just have a one-time fling. At least for many people, maybe not for you, but for many people.
And that's why I said in the beginning of the show, if we were doing this for pickup artists, it'd be a very different list.
Absolutely.
Because you wouldn't care about long-term compatibility, but here you do.
Number 2, they pretend to be someone other than they are. This is huge.
That's why it's at the beginning of the list, because we couldn't go too quickly by this one if we ran out of time at the end. The biggest mistake, and ladies do this too, by the way, this is not just men. So many people in the dating world do this, which is they're on their absolute best behavior. They do things that they wouldn't normally do 3 years into the relationship. Like, like a lot of guys are like, oh, I'm on the first date. I'm going to impress her, show her what a chivalrous man I am. I'm going to open the door for her, And then like 6 months later, she's like, where's the dude who used to open the door? I really like that. What happened to him? Right. Well, because it wasn't him. It was him pretending.
What if you're a guy who burps a lot or farts a lot, and then at first you hold it back and then you rip it all out? True story. It has happened. So, it may not be who she wants to be with. And she'd be like, oh, I'm stuck with that. Had I known that from the beginning, I may not have gone in that relationship.
Personally, I mean, okay, look. It's just so funny, but like I would never recommend to any guy that like on a first date you just rip one. But I will say this, it is important to be yourself. So if it's important for you to be able to just rip one, then yeah, go for it. Go for it.
You didn't know we were going there today, okay?
No, I really didn't. But just to finish that point, because it's so big, I don't want to laugh it off. But the reality is you have to be who you are. There's a couple more on this list that are somewhat related to that. So we'll get a little deeper into that as we get deeper into the list. But just keep in mind, if she is attracted to you or falls in love with you because of somebody you're pretending to be, it's never going to work out well in the long run, because you're never going to be able to keep it up. Eventually, you're going to revert back to who you really are, and she's not going to like it.
And, being exactly who you are is a lot to do with being upfront with your thoughts and ideas and not holding things back because you're afraid of not being liked. So it's not just about like, the behaviors, but also just about your ideas.
What a perfect segue into number 3, which the first half, no, but the second half, yes. Number 3 is they try to be the nice guy and they try hard to be liked. So they're similar yet different. So let's tackle the first half. They try too hard to be the nice guy. Okay, now Céline, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do women generally find the nice guy sexually attractive?
Most of the time, no. They will find him adorable or like my best friend, or like super great, but it's not somebody that they will want to have sex with.
Okay, so you're on a first date, or maybe you haven't even gotten the first date yet. You're literally just trying to attract her wherever you are and get her to have a first date with you. She's not going to do that if she thinks you're like friend zone material, or if she does say yes to like getting a cup of coffee at Starbucks or something like that. You're going to find out that it's totally platonic and be very disappointed.
Yeah, the thing that's interesting is about the balance, because while there are women who are attracted to the bad boy and all of that, ultimately we do want to have a nice man. But a nice man is somebody who will treat us right, but not who's like a how do you say that when you wipe your feet off?
A
Like a
doormat.
doormat. Thank you. I was like, what's the name of that again?
Right. So you want to be nice. Like
Mhm.
you don't want to be an ass, right?
Correct.
But you don't want to be that super soft, wishy-washy, nice guy bending over backwards because you don't want to offend, which brings us to the second half of this one, which is they try too hard to be liked. This is maybe not true of all women, but I think it's true of most women. They are fantastic bullshit detectors.
That's true.
They really are. And if you are trying too hard to be liked, they will know it. And here's the thing, they won't respect you. Am I correct on that?
Absolutely.
They're not going to respect you if they think that you are just desperately trying to be liked.
Now, which leads us to our mistake number 4, which is about suppressing your sexuality. Because I think it kind of like all goes hand in hand. So there's the nice guy, and then there's, well, I'm going to repress my sexuality because I do not want to be a sexual predator. But the problem with that is if you don't show up being a sexual being from the start, you're most likely going to end in the friend zone category. And it's very difficult to move away from the friend zone category to become a lover or something else.
Yeah, we have a perfect example. This just happened with a friend of ours recently. She's been back in the dating scene again, and she met this guy. And this guy he's good looking, he's athletic, he's actually quite wealthy. He's got a lot going on in his life. And they went on multiple dates, and there was like literally zero move from him whatsoever. And, a lot of times, right, women, you don't like it so much when the guy comes on to you like right away and starts, sort of propositioning you and stuff like that.
That's mistake number 5.
Right. We'll get to that in a minute. But what you do like is after you've had a few dates and you're starting to see that there's some potential here, you're like, okay, now why isn't he hitting on me? Why isn't he trying at least a little bit, right? Yes.
Yes, I mean, I'm nodding yes. So it's true.
Not everybody is watching on YouTube.
That is correct. What's interesting about that is it's such delicate balance again, but I do think that it's important to be a sexual being. Now, you don't have to pour it on the other person, but to just have that little zing and energy, that spark from the start is important.
Right, because you want to create that spark. You want to create that attraction, that polarity.
Yeah.
And let's face it, women want to be wanted.
That's true. We do.
You do. You want to be wanted. Even if you don't necessarily want to give it, you at least want to be wanted, right? Like you want to know that. There was another piece to this, suppressing the sexual. Oh, yes, it just came back to me. Here's another problem with suppressing your sexuality, which is that if you are a sexual being, and sex is an important part of a relationship to you, and for many it is. I mean, it is for both of us. I know it's not for everybody. So if it's not your thing, that's fine. But for a lot of people, it is. And the problem is if you suppress it too much and you come across as not really being very sexual, let's say that person that you are courting is the type who isn't very sexual. They're going to go, this is great. This is a perfect match. Like, he's totally not pressuring me for any kind of anything. Like, this is perfect. This is what I need. Then you get into a relationship. And then later on down the road, you're kind of like, okay, this is getting ridiculous now. Like, when is this sex going to happen? Right. And then you start, being more of your normal sexual self. And then she's like, I don't understand what's wrong with you. All you ever want is sex. Don't you love me for who I am? And blah, 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 blah. Right. You see how this creates problems down the road.
Now let's talk about the other side of this, which is to be too overtly sexual to start with. And I know it can be tricky because, you don't want to suppress your sexuality, but you also don't want to be on the opposite side where you're like overtly sexual from the start. And as much as we love to be desired, to be like a sexual object, there is a fine line. And usually we do need to have some type of connection first with the person before we feel flattered by that. If we only seen as a piece of meat from day one, it's usually not what we want. It might be what we want for like a one night stand or something like this, but usually not for a long-term relationship.
Yeah, I know. Right now, all the guys are rolling their heads going, oh, fuck's sake, these women are so difficult, right? It's not really that difficult. Really, it's just be yourself. Don't try too hard, but try, right?
That's the key, to try. And I know the climate is really challenging for a lot of men nowadays because there's always a fear of being called a predator, being like put as like an abuser, and you're like, I don't want to offend her. And I find the dating scene to be challenging, and it's challenging both for men and women because they don't really have clear roles anymore. And to be truly honest, as much as women love and want to be independent, they still do want to be chased. They still want that to happen most of the time. And so you got to find that perfect balance there.
Yeah, it's an interesting contradiction.
That is so true. That is so true. Let's move on to mistake number 6, because I think it's a very important one to talk about. And so it's if you focus too much on getting to know you questions. So when it comes to asking questions to women, like, I'll be very honest. If you like keep asking me, so what is this about you and this and that, like, and try to make connection or a conversation happen by asking all these questions, I will absolutely shut down. Like, I will not enjoy it. Now, not every woman is like this, but again, we're giving you these guidelines.
Well, we don't really want to be interrogated, but I get it from the man's point of view. It's like, it's somebody new. You don't really know a lot about them yet. And so you're trying to avoid awkward silences.
But let me tell you what you should say instead, rather than asking all the questions. I'm hold on, I was still in the middle of my thoughts. Let me finish that, because I'm about to give you a gem here. So rather than just like, what do you do? What's this? What's that? Like, you let her talk a little bit. And when she mentions something like, well, I don't know, like, and I had lunch with my girlfriend, it's like, tell me more. Tell me more is an open-ended question where she gets to explore more. Or, how does that make you feel?
That's a great one to ask a woman. Yes.
You just open the door to feelings and connection, and her to be able to talk about exactly what she wants. And to tell me more, it means you are interested and you want her to talk, which we all really want. We want to be able to just be like, chatty Cathy. And at the same time, like, how does that make you feel also brings that connection to the emotion. So these would be the better questions, because it also requires you to listen. You don't just go, so how does that make you feel? Like, it has to be coming from the discussion. Like, it could be like, I had this.
I can see it now. He's got the questions like written in the palm of his hand, and she's speaking, and he's like,
how does that make you feel?
Looking at his hand. So how does that make you feel? No, it's got to be timed appropriately.
Absolutely.
But you're absolutely right, which is that it's much more personal, and it creates much more connection if the questions are more genuine, So when so tell me about your job. I mean, not that you can't ask those questions, because, what somebody does for a living does tell you something about their personality and all, but go deeper than that and ask follow-up questions and be curious about who she is, but don't get too caught up in basically the list of questions, the standard list of questions that you probably ask every single woman on every date that you go on.
Not good.
No.
All right. Mistake number 7. You display too much nervousness and insecurity around women. Oh, this one is so good. Here's the thing. When we see a guy who looks frail because the insecurity and the nervousness makes you weak, we want to smash you. We want to be like, let me show you how strong I am, and you're so weak, pathetic. I know it sounds terrible, but there is a part of us, like, if we basically don't want to date a man who's weaker than us. That's just the bottom line.
Yeah, well, we'll talk more about testing at the end of the list. But yeah, basically what you're doing is you want to know if he can handle you and any situations that might arise. I mean, all of this stuff when you're dating, you're trying to meet people, it's all kind of just sussing out like, okay, what is it that I'm looking for? Am I looking for just sex one night stand? Am I looking for just a little fun dating? Am I looking for a relationship? Each one of those has a different level of criteria that you have to meet. And all of this stuff is assessing whether or not those criteria can be met through this particular connection. So yeah, you want to know those things.
And it's fine to be a little bit nervous because everybody is both.
But
both
it's how
sides,
but it's how you show up, right? So it's do you show up and, you're like your voice is a little shaky and you're like you're tripping on your words? Are you shaking a little? Are you afraid to ask for things like, is it okay if we go here? Like no. No. Of course you're going to be nervous, especially if she's really hot, you're really attracted to her, you're like, oh yeah. And it's okay to be nervous, just don't show it. It's just like any other, sort of high stress situation. Like think about if you're in the boardroom, right? You're in the boardroom and you're having a meeting with investors or with another company you're going to do some sort of joint venture with. Do you show up like a wishy-washy, like, no, of course they're going to walk all over you and your company and you are going to get completely screwed, right? But at the same time, are you nervous about it? Of course you are, because that deal is probably going to be worth $1 million or more to you, right? So yeah, you're nervous. You want to make it happen, but you don't show it to them. Same thing here.
Powerful stuff. We're going to do a small break here to invite you, all of you listening. Both Kevin and I offer coaching. We coach both separately and we also coach together. So if you have found that person and you're a committed couple and you're in a relationship and it's no longer fun, or you're missing the part of that sexuality, or you want to get back to feeling closer again, these are all things that we can help you with. We have an amazing program. And if you give us 90 days, we can help you bring the passion back between the sheets and be synced up sexually so that you can thrive with more purpose and passion. So to know more about our couples coaching program, go to CelineRemy.com/passion. And if you're not yet in a relationship and you're a single guy and you want to get to some help to just raise the level, the bar of who you are as a man and who you attract, you can work with Kevin or myself one-on-one, and we can help you get there. And Kevin is really, really good at that. So go to CelineRemy.com. You'll find everything to work with us there.
Absolutely. While we do teach a lot of the same things, we each have our own styles, and whoever you resonate with the most is who you should work with. And I'm telling you, the new year is always the time to finally do those things that you constantly say that you're going to do and then you don't do. So if you want to get your romantic life, your relationships, your sex life back in gear where they're supposed to be, there is no time like right now.
All right. Mistake number 8. They stay within their comfort zone talking to women.
Ooh. Oh, this is a good one. So, like with most of these lists, and I say this every time we have like a long list, but, a lot of times we sit down and we write our list of things that we think. And then we go out and we research. We go, what do other people say? And then, a lot of times we're like, okay, we already got that on the list. Or sometimes we're like, ooh, that's interesting. Hadn't thought about that one. This one came from doing some research and I really liked it. And that's why I wanted to put it on the list. So what do we mean by staying within their comfort zone? Well, here's the thing. It's somewhat related to not being yourself, but you can still be yourself, but stay in the comfortable part of yourself, right? So let's say that you're having a conversation and something comes up that has to do with whatever the political winds are, talking about at that particular time. Well, you don't want to offend this person or maybe have her be turned off. So you will completely avoid it and just stick to the topics of conversation that you feel very comfortable with. There are several problems with that. The first one is look, if she's going to have massively different political views from you, then you want to know that right away. Like, don't let that get in the way. And that's just one example. It could be anything. It could be about money. It could be about all kinds of things that tend to be divisive. Like you want to get that stuff out right up front so that you don't have any sort of problems down the road. But here's the bigger one that I see. And you can tell me, Céline, if you think I'm right on with this one. women like men who take risks, especially calculated risks, not necessarily foolhardy risks, but like it might be a risk to bring up a particular topic. But if it's something you really believe in and you have good reasons for that belief, even if they don't agree with you, they will at least respect you for bringing it up, for having a valid reason for it, and for being open to discussion about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, the being the boring guy is not going to lead you anywhere. And I think taking a chance and a risk of exposing yourself, it will basically from the start set the tone. Don't take it personally if she doesn't like you, like that personality. But I think you're going to have much better quality relationship if you are yourself from the start and willing to take this risk, this chance to talk about the uncomfortable things, to do the uncomfortable things, and just step out.
Most women like a man who is bold.
Absolutely.
Who goes out and gets what he wants.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean doing it in an asshole way or a taking way, but she just wants to know that like there's a spark there, there's a fire, there's a drive, right? Mm-hmm. And when you stay too much in the comfort zone, it's just like, same old, boring.
It's definitely not going to bring sparks in the long-term relationship. No. That's for sure. I want to move on to mistake number 9 and kind of like go a little bit quicker through a few things. The mistake number 1 is about thinking that he can buy her attraction or love. And I think everyone who has any degree of wealth is very familiar with that, because in a sense, wealth attracts. So people will want you, but you never know, do they want you or do they want your money? But you can also, when you have a lot of wealth, be like, I can get anything I want if I pay high enough. And the thing is, yeah, you can get anything you want, but you can never get true love. You can never get that genuine, authentic things. And there are people who are totally attracted to money. And it's kind of one of those jokes, like, what do you need to attract a woman? A big fat wallet or a big dick, right? and the thing is, I kind of want to say that this is not true. Like, we should stop making those stupid jokes. It's kind of the jokes about the blondes. Like, come on. Like, not every blonde is stupid, and not every woman is just utterly fascinated with money. We want some more, because guess what? A lot of us women are making our own money, and a lot of women are actually earning more than the man counterpart. So we really don't need you the same when it comes to money as we did before. So if you approach it from like, I can buy anything I want, especially her attraction or love, you could buy her attraction probably, but her love, you can never buy it.
Yeah, that's a big one. So, it's okay to buy her things and all, but don't expect that that's all that you need. You're still going to need all the other things that we've talked about. If you want to have a real relationship, like a relationship with depth, a relationship with true love, you can have a superficial relationship that way, but
anyone can have that.
Yeah.
Mistake number 10, thinking that attracting her or seducing her is wrong. And this is kind of fascinating, and it kind of ties in a little bit with the holding back with your sexuality mistake.
Yeah.
But I think it's such a good one, because some people are conflicted right now. It's like, is it manipulative if I want to seduce this person or attract this person?
Do you know what like some of the like most selling, I should say, one of the most selling genres in books is?
Is it
romance
like
novels?
Okay,
romance novels. But what is every romance novel? Every romance novel is, they're mostly written for women, and they are a guy seducing a woman over and over and over again with various different details. But that's basically what they are. Why?
More so lame sometimes.
Yeah, but why do they sell so much is the question, and the answer to that is because women want to be seduced.
So kick that idea that it's wrong, because it's definitely one of the mistakes.
It's not the seduction that's the problem. It's the intent behind the seduction that is the problem.
This is huge. I want to make sure you heard that it is the intent behind whatever you're doing, whether it's the seduction or anything else. Like if it's coming from a place of love, it will end up way better than if it's coming from a place of fear of manipulation.
Right. So So if you're seducing her just because you want to get her in bed for a one night stand and then never talk to her again or return her text messages or calls or anything like that, that's a problem. But if you're seducing her because you're genuinely interested in her and you're genuinely interested in having a relationship with her, that is completely different. And that is a great way to create some attraction and some polarity. Trust me, she wants to be chased. She wants to be seduced. She just wants it to come from a place of love and genuineness.
All right, mistake number 11, thinking that you have to have money or looks to get a girl.
Yeah, this is a good one too. This one was another one I picked up from doing some research, which is, does it help to have money and good looks? Of course it does. Let's be honest here. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you have money, you're gonna have a nice car, you're gonna have means, it's gonna be attractive. If you're good looking, everyone's attracted to good looking people.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean that if you don't have those things, that you cannot meet people and that you cannot have connections. It doesn't mean that at all. And the article I was reading where I got this particular one from had a whole series of photographs of really not particularly attractive men with very attractive women. Some of them were even wedding photos. So you can't just say, well, sure, they went out on a date once, like it's possible because looks are what attract us initially, but they're not what keep a relationship together long term. And trust me, you can ask any, famous Hollywood, whatever person, or they're all model looking, right? And the relationships are disaster. And they're on like wife number 6 now, right? And every single one of them was hot, like ridiculously hot. But the relationship didn't work because that's not what a relationship is about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all that means is that you have to use the gifts that you do have. Maybe it's your personality.
And you also have to have self-love because it all comes from the inside. If you accept yourself just the way you are, as you are, other people will do the same. So if you so hang up on like, oh, I don't have the looks or there's something wrong about me, until you come to peace with that part of yourself, you will attract other people who will judge you for having that or not having it. And so that's when it's time to do the inner work. The time that you can look in the mirror and not be bothered by who you are and what you see, you'll find that other people will react the same way to you as you are now doing to yourself.
Yeah, and as guys, we're somewhat fortunate that we have the advantage that our looks don't matter as much. It's kind of sad, but it's true. Like we get a lot more passes in the looks department. Like if we have a good personality and we've got something going on in the world and we're doing things and making things happen, we might be a little rough around the edges, but women will still love us, right? Mm-hmm. So
yeah. All right, let's move to mistake number 12. If you do whatever she wants in the hope that it will impress her and makes her like you. This is quite a mistake because we don't really want you to do everything we want. As a matter of fact, we don't like it when you say no to us, but we will respect you. And I think if you don't have her respect, if she can have her way with you and always like manipulate you or do what she wants, she will not be fully attracted. So it's that very important and delicate balance there where you do want to take her opinion into consideration. You do want to please her. You do want to make her, impress her, make her happy, but it shouldn't be at the extent of you not being yourself or trying so hard to impress her.
Right. So that would be like, okay, you're talking about going on a date. She's like, hey, why don't we go here and do this thing? And it's like the thing that you despise the most. And you're like, okay, yeah, sure. If you want, we'll go do that. And then the whole time you're freaking miserable because you don't even want to be there doing that. You either can't eat the food, you don't want to be doing whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
She would like it more if you said, oh, okay, well, that's a great idea. However, unfortunately, I can't eat the food there, or I don't like that particular activity, but here's another idea. How about we do this? And she might say, well, I don't really like that one. And then she'll come back and say, how about this? And then you go, yeah, You know what? I like that idea. Let's do it. I'm going to take you right now.
And the other thing too, at least be honest. You could be like, I really don't like doing this, but I'm willing to do this with you because it could be fun, but I don't like it. At least be really upfront with it, rather than just tag along.
Absolutely.
I want to talk about our last mistake here because we probably could do an entire show on it.
Maybe we should.
And maybe at one point we will, but it's all about the woman personality. And so if you are being annoyed when women test you, rather than see it as an opportunity to grow, that is a big mistake. And yes, we do test you. We do not do it on purpose.
Explain all the time to the audience what you mean by that.
We'll be subtly and not so subtly testing your confidence in something, testing how strong your opinion is, testing your love for us, testing your dedication. And so by doing that, we'll sometimes we'll be asking things, or maybe we'll make a comment or say I don't think you can do this, or I don't know, could you really do that? So we're trying to help you to show us that you're this strong being. So we're doubting who you are, right?
And here's what you're looking for in that situation. You're looking for, does he respond back and say, well, of course I can do it. I've done it before. I know I can do it. Or even if you've never done it before, you're like, oh yeah, I know I can do this. I'm 100% sure. Or do you say, you're right. I probably can't.
Oh, that was so bad when you said that, Kevin. I felt it. If I had an erection, it would just have come down it was deflated in 2 seconds.
Just deflated your lady boner, huh?
Absolutely. I was like, that was so bad. But it is true. And most women don't realize that they do that. But we will do some little tests. We'll sometimes it will be a little bit annoying. It's true. I will admit it. But you can't hold it against us. You just have to be okay with it.
This is why I wanted women to listen to this, even though we were talking about men trying to attract women, right? Because how many women, raise your hands now, how many of you were not aware that you do these subtle little tests to your man all the time? Yeah, I know a whole lot of hands just went up. And the hands that didn't go up, well, some of you were already aware, which is why you didn't put your hands up. But the rest of you are lying. Because you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one day we'll probably make an entire show on that. There is so much more to talk about it, but at least have this idea and hold that as some of the basics when it comes to the mistakes.
Right. So just to sum that one up a little bit, from the man's point of view, is to not get annoyed by that, to understand that women testing you is part of who they are. Right. And because that's their way of sensing whether or not they can trust you.
And whether or not we're safe with you. And it really comes down to safety ultimately. And it's not always conscious, but yeah, that's a deep, that desire for safety is so strong for us women, for sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk to wrap this show up a little bit. Now that we've walked you through all of these different mistakes, and you probably are looking at them and I'm like, yeah, some of them I do, some of them I don't, but they give you a good idea. Now, why would you want to try to change these patterns if you find yourself doing some of these mistakes? And really what it comes down to is when you change the patterns, then you can attract higher quality women. If you always have issues and you're like, well, I don't know why, but women always do that. The one common denominator is you. While they might still be doing that, is how you react to it. And so it's important to understand that how you show up will also affect how the other person interact with you.
Absolutely. That's funny. What you said just reminded me. I was sort of self-coaching a friend the other day, who was having some troubles. And one of the comments he made was that, he's had a bunch of relationships that all had this similar thing. So I just, as a bro, I got to be like, okay, dude, if all your relationships tends to have the same problem, what's the common denominator? It's you.
It really is.
It's you.
If you find yourself in this place and you want to make some of the changes, how do you go about that? And I've got a little formula here that I wanted to share with you. Number one, you have to know yourself. And nobody from the outside is going to give you the answers. You have to find them from within. And trust me, we love a man who really knows himself, who knows and is like, this is what I can do. And this is what I will not do. I'm the king of my kingdom. This is what we do in this kingdom. If you want to join in, great. If you don't, well, I'll find somebody else who wants to.
Yep.
It's really hard. Number 2, you got to learn to be comfortable being alone, because too many people go from one relationship to another and feel so empty within and uncomfortable alone, and you're trying to fill that hole with somebody else, which never works.
Well, not only that, but we're talking about attracting women here, right?
Oh, if you feel lonely and alone and you're so needy.
Not only are women spectacular bullshit detectors, they are even better neediness detectors. And if they detect that you are in that needy place, they are running for the hills.
Absolutely. Here's what you want to do. You want to start to get clear on the type of woman that you want to date. And then you want to look at what kind of man would this particular woman want to be with. And you want to look at how different is that man from who I am.
Be honest.
Be honest.
You got to be honest here.
This is huge. We do that in our private coaching with clients too. And it's definitely a question that stirs up a lot of things. So
when you're looking at Supermodel and you're like, what kind of man would she date? Would she date James Bond or would she date Mr. Bean?
James Bond, for sure.
If you don't know who either of those are, you're probably really young.
Now, your last step after that is, once you've become clear about, who you want, the kind of woman, and the kind of man you want to be. Basically, you're not going to change everything in one day. And what you need to do is, every time you take an action, is to ask yourself, am I taking this? Am I getting closer to the person I want to be? Or am I remaining in my comfort zone in who I truly am? Any expansion will feel uncomfortable. Any expansion, stepping out of your comfort zone, will be a little not so good. And a client of mine at some point was like, yeah, but I don't like doing it because it just doesn't feel as comfortable, or it doesn't feel as easy. And I was like, well, that's the point. If it just feels easy and comfortable, you're just doing the same thing. And if you do the same thing, you have the same results. And you attract the same type of woman. So you want to be able to take steps out of your comfort zone, and you want to ask yourself, am I taking that step towards the direction of that new person I want to become, or is it taking me away? And then you can make a decision on which direction you want to go. And ideally, you want to take as many steps as possible every day towards the person you want to be. I managed to do it without sneezing at the end.
Good job for holding that one in.
My nose was totally itchy. I was like, can I make my point? And this was it, ladies and gentlemen. I just hit the hammer with that sneeze.
This show is always real and raw, including the bodily functions. All right. Well, that I think was a fantastic list. And I think if you could really learn those things, you will have such an easier time attracting women, as well as you will attract better quality relationships all around. All right, everybody, that's all the time we have for this episode, and we will see you next week. We hope you liked this episode of the Love Lab podcast. If you enjoy this show, subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with your friends.
And for more free, exclusive content, join us in the Passion Vault at CelineRemy.com/vault. That's CelineRemy.com/vault.
Thanks for listening.
And remember, you're amazing.